Hey, do it yourself first. Look what the cat dragged in. And by the cat, I'm talking about this guy with a car buying addiction, it seems. And like I always say, first, admit you have a car buying problem. Second, go out and buy cars. And then when you're all out of money, make sure you treat your alcoholism the same way. Some sound advice will be given out today. Make sure you take notes. That's right, I bought yet another car from the auction block. This one, a 1988 Corvette, aka a C4, which is a 4th generation Corvette. So yeah, today first we'll go over the specs on these cars, then we'll also discuss some common issues with the accessories, some engine and transmission issues, what are some of the better years that you might want to consider if you ever think of buying a C4. Also, we'll discuss what's wrong with this car specifically, how much did I pay for it, and what are my plans for it for the future. All right, so let's get the specs out of the way first. The C4s, this body style, was made from 1984 to 1996. And they come with a 5.7 liter V8 engine. Yep, this big old gal right here that you see before you. Now, as far as horsepower and torque, as time went on, they made improvements to these engines and they produced more horsepower. The early on engines, which on this car is the L98, produced 245 horsepower and 340 pound-feet of torque. But then after 92, they went to the LT1 engine that produced 300 horsepower. And then I believe in 94 or 95, they made the LT4 engine, which produced 330 horsepower. Now, as far as transmissions go, you had options for 4-speed automatic or from 84 to 88, a 4+3 Dough Nash manual transmission with overdrive, which is what we have here. Now we'll raise this car and I'll give you a closer shot and explain to you how the 4+3 Dough Nash transmission on these works. But I believe after 88, you could get these with a 6-speed manual transmission as well. Also, you could get these C4s as a convertible or with a removable top, which is what I have here. All right, so next we'll go over some common issues and problems on these cars, and we're gonna first get the baby problems out of the way. And by baby problems, I don't mean small problems. I mean just some of them are just common wear and tear that any car has that I think some millennials think are noteworthy or big problems, which makes them babies. Welcome to Wretches and Wrenches, kids, where we insult our subscribers. First common problem, the pop-out headlights don't work. Oh God, this headlight doesn't pop out. How are we ever going to find and then gain access to the motor for these headlights? Second problem, the weather stripping around the windows and the windshield dries out and wears out as you see before you. Next up, window regulators might fail, but as you can see, it hasn't failed on this one. Next, you could have electrical problems with your instrument cluster, with the switches not working, etc. But I've tried all these switches on this panel and they all seem to work pretty well. By the way, this is a pretty interesting setup they got over here. Yeah, it's just kind of futuristic, I would assume, for 1988. The next problem is having a loose steering wheel due to a worn out bushing that's inside your column. And that happens because the way these cars are designed, when you go to get out the car, the easiest way to do it is to put your arm on the steering wheel, either pull on it or push on it and get out the car that way. And you do that every time. It wears out a bushing inside there, and then you'll have your steering wheel is going to be a little loose. And next, we'll start with the mechanical problems, and we'll start in the back. So the fuel pump on these seems to fail a bit more common than usual. However, if it does, you'll be faced with the easiest fuel pump change ever, because the fuel pump lives right underneath this plastic cover that someone seems to have broken in the past and then try to put some sort of RTV or seam sealer in there, probably a millennial. All right, next up, your fuel pressure regulator and or your factory fuel injectors. They also seem to fail very regularly, especially the fuel injectors. Also, if you have a later model C4, your distributor, which is an OptiSpark distributor, which if I'm not mistaken, we're on the passenger side right now. It goes down here somewhere. We're on the older ones. This distributor is back here. Also seems to fail, and you might need to replace it. All right, next up, some people complain of head gasket problems with these engines, but in my experience, these 5.7 liter V8 engines are really reliable. With just some basic and regular maintenance, they last quite a bit. This one has 163,000 miles on it, and the engine does not seem to have ever been touched or rebuilt. So if you take care of these, they last a long time. Head gaskets can happen to any engine. A lot of times what happens is the water pump on these goes, they don't inspect it, or they have a leak within their cooling system, radiator or radiator hose. They don't fix it, they overheat the engine, the head gasket blows like any engine would. Definitely not like a Subaru engine where it has a chronic head gasket problems that we've covered in the previous videos. So yeah, just take care of these. The engines are fine. All right, now onto the transmissions, and that's where the fun begins. And I'm actually gonna get this car on the lift, raise it up, and give you a closer shot. All right, so let's go underneath from the driver's side and give you guys a closer shot. So yeah, the 4+3 Dough Nash manual transmission is basically a 4-speed manual transmission. Here's your engine, there's your 4-speed manual transmission with an overdrive unit attached to the end of it. Yep, this unit right here. And then obviously you have your drive shaft at the end of it going to your rear differential, so on and so forth. All right, so the way this works is that the overdrive unit at the back of this 4-speed manual transmission is controlled by your car's computer. So at cruising speed, under low loads, or when you let your foot off the gas pedal, etc., your car's computer will engage the overdrive unit to the top 3 gears. So second, third, and fourth will get overdrive unit under the right conditions. You can also engage the overdrive for those gears with a switch on top of your shifter that I'll show you later. If those conditions meet. You cannot override the computer, obviously. But for practical purposes, the way this works is that you shift through the gears 1 through 4th. Once you get to the 4th gear and you're on the freeway and you're cruising, then the overdrive kicks in and will make you feel like you have 5 gears and not 4+3, which would be 7 gears. Now, as far as reliability goes, years 84 and 85 had major problems with the internal components of the overdrive unit. The bearing in there would fail, also a thrust washer and a seal that could fail and cause you to have to rebuild the overdrive unit for those years. Now, years 86 through 88, GM upgraded those parts, so those parts didn't fail as much, but you have to maintain these overdrive units. You have to change the oil and filter every 10,000 miles. Now again, mine being an 88 requires regular service, but as you can see, this thing is leaking from pretty much everywhere, from the gasket, the oil pan up top and all that, and it doesn't look like it was serviced recently. But hey, the overdrive still works. I'm going to service this and hope for the best. So yeah, you might want to avoid an 84 or an 85 with the 4+3 Dough Nash transmission, or if you're going to be buying one, you want to make sure that the overdrive unit has been rebuilt and it has been meticulously maintained since. Also, as I mentioned earlier, after the 4+3 Dough Nash came the 6-speed manual transmission, which was relatively a more reliable transmission. Also, the 4-speed automatic transmissions on these was a good transmission, and I'm pretty sure it was also used on the GM8 vehicles with the V6 engine. But as you would imagine, it was a bit weak for this 5.7 liter V8. But still, if those transmissions were maintained and those cars weren't driven super hard, those transmissions lasted quite a bit as well. All right, now as far as what's wrong with this car that I got at the auction, besides that leak on the transmission, up here with the suspension, there isn't much wrong. It's in pretty decent shape. Also, there are no major oil leaks from the engine. There's a small leak, it seems, back here, but nothing is dripping or leaking on the ground, so it's not too bad. But yeah, again, this overdrive unit, the gasket for the oil pan of it, is leaking. I was also leaking from some of the sensors and the connections up there as well. Now, one thing that stands out that I didn't see this in the photos that was included for the auction is this storage bin broken. It's pretty much broken clean now. Luckily, I can replace this. This is simply, it looks like, attached to the body. Those are here with some bolts and nuts. I can just remove those and get a used one and throw it on there. In fact, first I'm going to remove this ABS sensor bracket, and then we're going to break this off so it doesn't drag on the ground. And then we'll zip tie this ABS sensor up top here for now. Besides that, the power steering comes and goes. Also, sometimes under load, it bogs down and cuts off. Feels like a fuel delivery issue. Could be fuel pump, fuel injectors. We'll diagnose that in a separate video. And then, of course, is the obvious, which is the paint condition on this car. The clear coat is completely gone on this. The Southern California sun hasn't been kind to this guy. But luckily, all the fiberglass panels seem to be intact. There's no major damage or tears to the panels, so we don't have to worry about doing any panel repairs. And then, of course, is the condition of the interior, which, as you can see, it's in a really, really poor shape. Both these seats are badly damaged and they have to be replaced. Also, the center console is in poor shape. By the way, that switch for the overdrive goes on top of the shift knob, and it's missing on this. It's actually broken, and right in there, you can see it right in there actually. But yeah, the whole interior has to be redone. The panels are also in poor shape, but I'm happy to see the instrument cluster works, the overdrive works, the engine is in good condition. We just have to paint the body and fix the interior and we'll be good to go. So yeah, fix her up, do the paint job, interior, the oil leak, drivability issue, baby repairs, and then enjoy it for a while and then sell it. At least that's the plan, and have someone else enjoy it. But let me know in the comment section how much you think this car will be worth with 163,000 miles on it and the condition that we just talked about after all is said and done. So yeah, all the videos regarding this car will be its own playlist. It'll probably show up in the suggestion box. But if you want to see them, make sure you subscribe, hit that bell notification, give this video a thumbs up. Check out my other videos in the meantime on this side of the screen, in the suggestion box, also links below in the description as well. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.